had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Worth Loving Podcast, the space where we talk about dating, healing, and learning how to choose love from a place of clarity and confidence, not confusion or desperation. I am your host, Keana W. Mitchell, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. So whether you're listening on your morning walk, on your lunch break, or if you're listening while you're winding down for the night, I hope this episode meets you exactly where you are. So today we're going to talk about a topic that so many women ask me about, and it can be confusing, and that is dating apps. Are they helping us? Are they hurting us? Are they making dating easier, or are they making it more difficult and more complicated than it needs to be? And most importantly, how do they impact your emotional well-being and your sense of worth? Dating apps have been such a normal part of modern dating that sometimes we don't even stop to ask whether they're actually serving us or if they're hurting us. We just download them because everyone else is doing it, or because we're lonely, or because we're trying to get back out there, even when our hearts aren't fully ready. And that's when things can get really messy. So today, we're going to slow down and we're really going to talk about it. Not from a place of judgment, but from a place of honesty, compassion, and emotional clarity. Because the truth is, dating apps can be very helpful, and they can also be harmful. It all depends on how you're using them and why you're using them. But before we get into all of this, let's take a minute to recap last week's episode of the podcast because it sets the foundation for everything that we're going to be talking about today. So last week we talked about a topic that sits at the core of everything I teach, and that is why your self-worth determines your love life. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly, strongly recommend and encourage that you go back after this one because it lays the groundwork for how you show up in dating, online or offline. So, last week we explored how your sense of worth shapes the choices you make. When your self-worth is low, you're more likely to settle for crumbs, ignore red flags, or stay in situations that drain you emotionally. You might find yourself overgiving, over-explaining, or trying to prove your value to someone who hasn't earned access to your heart. And that's not love, that's survival mode. But when your self-worth is healthy, everything shifts. You become more selective, more grounded, and more confident in what you deserve. You're not impressed by bare minimum. You're not impressed by bare minimum effort either. You're not choosing potential. You're not chasing potential. You're not trying to convince someone to choose you. You're choosing yourself first and foremost, and that changes the entire dating experience. We also talked about how your internal beliefs, the ones shaped by childhood or past relationships, or unhealed wounds influence who you're drawn to and who you allow into your life. And that's important because dating apps amplify these patterns. So if you're dating from insecurity, the app will feel like a battlefield. If you're dating from worthiness, the app becomes a tool, not a threat. So with that foundation in mind, let's talk about the world of swipes, matches, and messages, and whether dating apps are actually helpful or hurting your journey toward healthy love. But before we do that, if you have not heard last week's episode of the podcast, there is a link in the show notes. So all you have to do is click on the link in the show notes and you can be directed to last week's episode of the podcast. Before we dive back into today's conversation, I want to take a minute to personally invite you into something very special, into my You Are Worth Loving signature coaching program. This is my 12-week trauma-informed coaching experience designed to help you break unhealthy patterns, rebuild your self-worth, and create emotionally safe relationships that actually feel good for your soul. If you've been listening to the Worth Loving podcast and thinking, I'm ready for deeper support, this is your next step. Inside the program, we work together one-on-one to help you reconnect with your voice, your boundaries, and your confidence so you can stop settling for relationships that drain you and start choosing ones that honor you. I'm only taking 3 clients for the month of May because I honestly want to give each person the time, energy, and care they deserve. So, If you've been waiting for a sign to start your healing journey, this is it. Click the Stan Store link in the show notes to apply or learn more. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are worthy of love, and you are worthy of relationships that feel safe, healthy, and whole. Now, let's get back to today's episode. So let's start with the good, because dating apps do have benefits, and for many women, they open doors that didn't exist before. One of the biggest advantages is access. You're no longer limited to your social circle, your job, or your city. You can meet people you would have never crossed paths with in your everyday life. And for women who are busy, rebuilding after heartbreak, or juggling motherhood and career, that accessibility can be a blessing. Dating apps also offer convenience. You can connect with people on your own time, at your own pace, and without the pressure of being on all the time. For women who are introverted or anxious about in person dating, apps can feel like a gentler entry point. Another benefit is self discovery. When you're exposed to different personalities, values, and communication styles, you learn more about what you want and what you don't want. You get to practice boundaries, communication, and discernment in real time, and that can be empowering. Apps can also help you filter out things that matter to you. For example, lifestyle, values, relationship goals. You can be intentional about who you match with instead of leaving everything up to chance. But here's the key: dating apps only work well when you are grounded, when your self worth is intact. You're not swayed by low effort messages or inconsistent behavior. You're not falling for potential. You're not chasing validation. You're using the apps as a tool and not as a mirror of your value. And that's when things start to shift when we talk about the downside. So, when we talk about the downside, it's important for us to talk about the part that most women don't always say out loud. For example, dating apps can be emotionally exhausting. One of the biggest issues is the paradox of choice. So, when there are endless options, people become less intentional. It's easy to treat dating like a game instead of a meaningful connection, and that can leave you feeling disposable, overlooked, or confused. Then there's the gratification. Swiping becomes addictive. You're chasing dopamine hits, not genuine connection. And before you know it, you're spending more and more time scrolling than actually spending time connecting. Another problem is ghosting and breadcrumbing, because people don't feel accountable online. They can disappear without explanation or give you just enough attention to keep you hooked. And if your self worth is shaky, that behavior can feel personal, even though it's not. There's also misrepresentation. And believe me, I've watched a lot of dating shows. I've heard a lot of stories about real life incidences to know that people can curate their profile to look better, sound better, or appear more emotionally available than they really are. And that disconnect can lead to disappointment or confusion when you meet in person. And here's the part that hits hardest: dating apps can amplify insecurities. If you're already struggling with self worth, every unmatched message, every slow reply, every disappointing act can feel like confirmation that you're just not enough. But the truth is, the app isn't rejecting you, the algorithm is. Dating apps aren't inherently bad, but they can become harmful when you're using them from a place of loneliness, fear, or emotional unavailability. And that's why understanding the psychology behind them is so desperately important. And dating apps are designed to keep you engaged, not necessarily help you find love. And understanding the psychology behind them can help you protect your emotional well being. First, there's dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. Every match, every message, every notification gives you a little hit of dopamine. It feels good, it feels validating, but it's temporary. And when the dopamine wears off, you're left wanting more. That's how the cycle keeps you swiping. Then there's novelty. The brain loves newness. Dating apps give you an endless stream of new faces, new possibilities, new what ifs. But novelty doesn't equal compatibility. It doesn't keep you searching. It just keeps you searching. It doesn't help you find necessarily or always help you find someone who's equally compatible. And so the apps would just help you by just keeping you searching. Dating apps also tap into comparison. You're comparing yourself to another profile. You're comparing your matches to each other. You're comparing your dating life to what you think it should look like. And comparison is the fastest way to drain your confidence. For women with unhealed trauma, dating apps can trigger old patterns: people pleasing, overgiving, attaching too quickly, or ignoring red flags. The digital environment can make these patterns feel even more intense. But here's the good news: when you understand the psychology, you can take your power back. You can use the app intentionally instead of emotionally. You can slow down, you can set boundaries, and protect your heart. And that leads us to the most important part: how to use dating apps in a healthy, grounded way. So if you're going to use dating apps, I want you to use them from a place of clarity, not chaos. I want you to use them from a place of confidence, not desperation. I want you to use them from a place of self-worth and not loneliness. So I would encourage you to start by setting emotional boundaries before you even download the app, okay? Before you even download that app, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Question number 1: what am I looking for? Question number 2: what am I emotionally available for? Question number 3: what behaviors will I not entertain? And this kind of goes back to when we talk about our non-negotiables, right? So with that in mind, we can answer this question about what behaviors will I not entertain. And question number 4: this can keep you grounded when messages start rolling in. So question number 4 would be something like, remember, when we talk about comparison, it's important to remind yourself that you are enough. You don't need to compare yourself with anyone else. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You are enough. And I also want you to keep in mind the algorithm when we are doing this. All of this can help you stay grounded when the messages start to come in. Next, I want you to create a profile that reflects your real values, not one that you think will get you the most matches, okay? You don't need the matches. You don't need to perform. You don't need to shrink. You don't need to be, quote unquote, the cool girl or give off the cool girl energy. You just need to be honest. I want you to pay attention to early red flags, and we do have a podcast episode about early red flags in dating. Just scroll up and you should be able to see that one, okay? I want you to really pay attention to the red flags, especially the early red flags when it comes to dating, because inconsistency, vague intentions, love bombing, or low effort can mean that this is not the person for you, and these are all early red flags. If someone can't show up for you in the beginning, they're not going to magically improve and show up for you later. I want you to pace the conversations. Don't emotionally invest in someone you haven't met yet. Don't build a fantasy around a stranger. Keep your heart open, but your expectations grounded. I want you to take breaks when needed, because dating apps should not drain your emotional energy. If you feel anxious, discouraged, or overwhelmed, I want you to step back, because your peace matters more than any match. And most importantly, remember this: dating apps are a tool, not a measure of your worth, okay? Your value doesn't rise or fall based on who swipes right. You are worthy just because you exist and not because someone matches with you. So, do dating apps hurt or help? The answer is, it honestly just depends on you. Dating apps can absolutely help when you're grounded in your worth, when you're clear about what you want, when you're emotionally available, and when you're using the app intentionally instead of impulsively. In that space, dating apps can expand your world, introduce you to new people, and help you practice healthy communication. But on the other hand, dating apps can hurt when you're using them to fill a void, when you're seeking validation, when you're lonely, bored, or trying to distract yourself from healing. When your self-worth is shaky, the apps can feel like a roller coaster. There are highs, there are lows, there are confusions, disappointments, and emotional burnout. So the truth to this question is, it just depends on you. The dating apps, they do not determine your love life. They do not determine who you're going to be if you're going to meet your future mate. The thing that determines that is your self-worth, your boundaries, your emotional readiness does, your clarity does. Dating apps are just neutral, They're a platform, they're a tool. So what matters is the energy you bring to them. So if you choose to use them, do it with intention, do it with confidence, do it with your heart protected and your standards intact. Remember those non negotiables, and remember you don't need a match to validate your worth. You don't need attention to feel valuable. You don't need a stranger to tell you who you are because you already know who you are. You are already enough, even with or without an app. So just remember that, and remember that it just depends on you whether dating apps can be helpful or if they can be harmful. So the song we're going to listen to this week is called Playing Around, and it's by our podcast artist and my alter ego, Emery Rose. So here's the song, Playing Around.
Touch me, baby. Anywhere, I don't care. Yeah. Let me touch you. Run my fingers through your hair. Yeah. Let's keep it a secret. Let's keep it quiet. No one should know what we're doing. Let's keep it a secret. Let's keep it quiet. No one should know what we're doing. I like playing around, playing with you. I like playing around with you. I like playing around with you. I like playing around with you. Your secret's safe from me, I won't tell a soul. Cause all I wanna do is lay here while you hold me. No one will ever know the love I have for you. That is why I appreciate the way your body makes me feel. Let's keep it a secret. Let's keep it quiet. No one should know what we're doing. Let's keep it a secret. Let's keep it quiet. No one should know what we're doing. I like playing around with you. 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 Marriage can be hard enough, so let's keep it fun. After a hard day at work, it's time to unwind. So keep texting me on my cell phone, telling me what you wanna do. Nothing makes me happier than being with you. I like playing around 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 with you. I like playing. I like playing around with you. I like playing around with you. I like playing around with you.
Before we close today's episode, I want to leave you with a few reflection questions, the kind that can help you check in with yourself and make sure you're dating from a place of emotional clarity. So, first question, why am I using the apps right now? Connection or validation? So when you answer this question, I want you to really be honest with yourself because there's no shame in the answer. Awareness is what can help you shift. Question number 2, do I feel more confident or more insecure after using them? Your body's going to tell you the truth before your mind does. So pay attention to how you feel after you log off. Third, what boundaries do I need to protect my emotional energy? So maybe it's limiting your time on the app. Maybe it's not responding to low effort messages. Or maybe it's taking breaks when you feel overwhelmed. Question number 4, what patterns do I notice in people I match with? So these patterns reveal your healing edges. They're going to show you where you're growing and where you still need support. And finally, you can ask yourself this question, am I choosing from worthiness or from loneliness? That one question can change your entire dating experience, so make sure you answer that one truthfully. Use these questions as a guide. Journal about them, sit with them, and let them help you Date with intention and not impulse. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope this episode gives you clarity, comfort, and a little bit of courage as you navigate the world of dating apps. Remember, you deserve love that feels safe, consistent, and emotionally nourishing, not confusing, draining, or chaotic. Dating apps can be a tool, but they are not the source of your worth. You get to decide how you show up. You get to decide what you accept. You get to decide what kind of love you're available for. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who might need this reminder. And if you have a dating app story, good or bad, I would love to hear it. Your experience can help other women feel less alone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for doing the work of loving yourself better. I'll see you in the next episode. But until then, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and remember, you are worth loving. Bye-bye.